Hello and welcome to Lotus Heart Teachings. Have you ever paused to wonder about the deeper reasons behind the people who enter your life? Those seemingly random encounters that sometimes bring joy, other times pain, or even a sense of familiarity that you just can't explain. What if I told you that these connections are not random at all? That each person who crosses your path is like a piece of a vast karmic puzzle, carrying with them an invaluable lesson or insight for your soul's growth. In today's exploration, we'll dive into the timeless wisdom of Buddhist teachings through stories that reveal the hidden purpose of the relationships in our lives. Imagine a world where every friendship, every challenging encounter, and even those fleeting, unexpected moments with strangers hold a profound meaning. The monks and teachers in these stories will guide us through concepts of karma, self-awareness, forgiveness, and the power of solitude. Each story holds a mirror up to our own lives, showing us the transformative lessons hidden in our everyday interactions. Through these stories, we will explore the unseen karmic currents that pull people into our lives, sometimes to teach us, sometimes to support us, and sometimes even to challenge us. The delicate balance between offering help and allowing others to grow through their own journey. The strength found in forgiving ourselves and others, releasing the heavy stones of resentment and bitterness. And finally, the power of solitude, a sacred space for self-discovery and true inner peace. Buddhism teaches that life is not a series of random events, but a beautiful, intricate web where each thread, each person, and each encounter contribute to our soul's evolution. As we journey through these stories, let's open our minds to the idea that the people we meet are our teachers, mirrors reflecting back the areas we need to understand, heal, or cherish within ourselves. So settle in, take a deep breath, and prepare to embark on a journey that will change the way you see the relationships and encounters in your life. Each story is an invitation to look deeper, to find the wisdom within, and to understand that every person who crosses your path brings with them a gift, a message, and a purpose for your soul's growth. Stay with us to the end, and together we'll uncover the hidden teachings in the people and moments that shape us. Story 1. The Birds and the Invisible Currents. Under a blooming cherry blossom tree, Master Satoshi sat in meditation as a gentle breeze stirred the petals around him. A young disciple named Taro approached, his face filled with a quiet curiosity. Bowing deeply, Taro asked, "Master, why is it that I sometimes feel such a strong, almost familiar connection with certain people I meet? Other times I feel uneasy, as if they're meant to challenge or test me in some way." Master Satoshi opened his eyes, smiling knowingly. "Taro, people do not come into our lives by mere coincidence. Just as the birds are carried along by invisible currents in the sky, each person is drawn to us by unseen forces, karma, spiritual need, and the interconnectedness of all beings." He gestured toward a group of birds soaring gracefully overhead. "Look at them," he said softly. "They follow the path of the wind, carried from one place to another. Similarly, our lives are influenced by unseen currents, and the people we meet are drawn to us like these birds, each carrying a unique purpose for our growth." Taro gazed up, contemplating this analogy, sensing the hidden wisdom in his teacher's words. In Buddhism, it is often said that the people we encounter are mirrors, reflecting back the lessons we most need to learn or the qualities we must nurture within ourselves. Just as a bird is drawn to certain environments that sustain it, we too are unconsciously drawn to people who will help us address unrecognized needs or overlooked aspects of ourselves. In the stillness of his meditation, Taro began to realize that these encounters served as life's way of presenting him with the teachings he had yet to fully embrace. Sometimes the people he met offered kindness, support, or encouragement, signs that he was ready to grow and expand. Other times, people would challenge him, bringing out unresolved emotions or hidden insecurities. These encounters, though uncomfortable, were essential, providing the conditions necessary for inner transformation. Master Satoshi added, "When you feel an immediate connection with someone, it may be because they resonate with something deep within you. Sometimes that connection is pleasant and harmonious, but even when you feel challenged or uneasy, remember that those people also have something to teach you. They are like sharp stones on the path, reminding you to walk carefully, with awareness." Through this insight, we can recognize that life brings people to us who serve as catalysts for growth. Our relationships, whether supportive or challenging, often reveal aspects of ourselves that need healing or strengthening. In doing so, they allow us to confront and transform our hidden fears and limitations. Master Satoshi concluded, "Taro, remember that each encounter, like each bird in the sky, is part of a greater journey. Some people will bring moments of peace, like a gentle breeze, while others will bring storms that test your inner resilience. Yet, all are necessary for you to become whole. Embrace each connection with gratitude, for they are the winds that shape your path." In the stillness beneath the cherry blossom tree, Taro felt the weight of these words sink deeply into his heart. He realized that every person who crossed his path, whether friend or challenge, was sent for a reason. Through them, he could gain greater insight into his true self and continue his journey towards spiritual awakening. In this way, Taro learned that life's encounters are not random, but guided by forces beyond our understanding, an intricate web of karmic bonds that shapes us, like the currents of wind guiding each bird across the vast sky. Story 2. The Garden of Life and People as Seeds. In a secluded monastery surrounded by towering cedar trees, Master Daiki often taught his students through the beauty of nature. One sunny afternoon, his young disciple Ren approached him with a troubled heart. Bowing respectfully, Ren asked, "Master, why do some people bring us joy and harmony, while others seem to create challenges and pain? Are these encounters simply random, or is there a deeper purpose?" Master Daiki smiled, gesturing toward the flourishing garden around them. "Imagine, Ren, that your life is like this garden," he began. "Each person you meet is like a seed planted by the currents of destiny. Some bloom as beautiful flowers, gracing our lives with colors and fragrances that brighten our days, but they may only remain for a season. Others grow as sturdy trees that endure, providing shade and comfort as they accompany us for years. Yet, regardless of whether they remain briefly or grow alongside us, each brings the promise of new growth and transformation." Ren looked around, noticing the variety of plants, flowers, and trees. He could see the wisdom in his master's metaphor, that just as in a garden, each encounter brought something unique, even if the purpose was not immediately clear. Master Daiki continued, "In a garden, some seeds sprout easily, bringing immediate beauty. Others are like seeds that must endure harsh conditions to grow, just as some people in our lives may challenge us, forcing us to dig deep and find strength we didn't know we had. These challenging individuals may be difficult to understand, but they are often our greatest teachers." Master Daiki then shared a story of one of his own experiences. "Many years ago, there was a person in my life who tested my patience and compassion to their limits. This person's presence unsettled me, yet in the end, they were the catalyst for my own inner transformation. Because of them, I learned patience, humility, and the importance of compassion without attachment." Ren listened intently, reflecting on a recent experience with someone he found challenging. Through Master Daiki's story, he began to see that even difficult relationships had a place and purpose in his life, guiding him to confront and heal his insecurities. Drawing from his experience, Master Daiki explained, "There are people who come into our lives for a single season. They might appear only to help us through a particular chapter or teach us a lesson we most need at that moment. Like seasonal flowers, they bloom, enrich our lives with their beauty, and then fade away. Yet their impact remains, like the fragrance of a flower lingering in the garden air." In Buddhist teachings, the concept of impermanence, anicca, reminds us that everything, including our relationships, is transient. Seasonal people teach us to cherish each encounter without becoming attached. Their presence and departure remind us of the ebb and flow of life and encourage us to focus on the lessons they bring rather than mourn their absence. Ren, Master Daiki concluded with a soft smile. Nurture the garden of your life with gratitude. Every person you meet, whether a fleeting blossom or a steadfast tree, is there to support your growth in some way. Even those who seem to disturb your peace are simply rough stones, helping you polish the mirror of your heart. In the quietude of the garden, Ren felt a wave of gratitude for every person he had encountered, realizing that each one, whether friend, teacher, or challenge, had played a crucial role in his journey. Master Daiki's wisdom helped him understand that life's garden is enriched not only by harmonious encounters, but also by those that test our spirit, each contributing to the depth and beauty of our path. In this way, the garden of life becomes a place of constant learning, and each relationship is like a seed planted by destiny, inviting us to grow toward wisdom and compassion. Story 3. The Painful Teacher. On a misty morning in the mountain monastery, Master Kenji was leading his disciple Yuta in meditation. Yuta's mind, however, was restless, filled with the turmoil of a recent betrayal by a close friend. Unable to focus, he finally looked up and admitted to Master Kenji, "Master, I feel hurt and deceived. How could someone I trusted so deeply betray me? How am I supposed to understand or forgive such a painful experience?" Master Kenji's eyes softened as he listened. "Yuta," he began gently, "sometimes those who hurt us are, in fact, the teachers we need most. They come into our lives to show us the parts of ourselves that require healing and strength, even if their methods are painful." Master Kenji continued, "When I was young, I too experienced the sting of betrayal. A person I trusted deeply spread lies that damaged my reputation and caused me great suffering. For a long time, I carried bitterness in my heart, wondering how I could ever forgive such harm. But over time, I realized that this experience forced me to find inner resilience and to look at my own vulnerabilities. It made me reflect on why I placed my self-worth in the opinions of others. Through this pain, I learned the value of inner strength and self-respect, independent of external validation." Yuta listened, surprised by his master's vulnerability and humbled by the lesson. Master Kenji's painful experience had ultimately become a catalyst for self-discovery and inner peace. Yuta began to see that the betrayal he faced might also serve as a path toward understanding his own values and boundaries. In Buddhism, the concept of resilience and self-worth often arises in the context of difficult relationships. Master Kenji explained, "When someone wounds us, they hold up a mirror to our inner selves. Their actions reflect areas within us that may need strengthening or healing. Rather than react with anger or resentment, we can see these experiences as opportunities to grow." He continued, "Each encounter with pain invites us to set healthier boundaries, to respect ourselves, and to cultivate compassion without attachment. When we approach relationships this way, we protect our inner peace without shutting others out entirely." Yuta reflected on this insight. He recognized that the pain he felt was partly due to his tendency to seek approval from others, even at the expense of his own self-worth. Through this betrayal, he was now being challenged to value himself independently, learning the importance of setting boundaries that honored his own well-being. Master Kenji concluded, "Buddhism teaches us to approach all beings with compassion, but compassion does not mean allowing others to harm us. True compassion extends to ourselves as well. We can be kind and understanding without permitting ourselves to be drawn into suffering." He explained that compassion without attachment meant seeing the person who hurt us with empathy, understanding their own struggles, but without needing their approval or validation. By doing so, we cultivate a balanced heart that can forgive, but also protect itself from unnecessary harm. In the silence that followed, Yuta felt a new sense of clarity. He saw that the betrayal, though painful, had been a necessary lesson, pushing him to recognize his own worth. He now understood that setting boundaries was not an act of anger but a form of self-compassion. "Yuta," Master Kenji said softly, "remember that those who hurt us are often our greatest teachers. They may not enter our lives to bring joy, but they bring us something even more precious, a chance to understand and love ourselves more deeply." With a heart lighter yet wiser, Yuta bowed in gratitude. He realized that like a sharp stone that polishes a gem, the painful teacher had revealed his inner strength. From this experience he would emerge more resilient, with compassion tempered by wisdom. In this way, Yuta came to understand that each hurtful encounter, each painful teacher, is an invitation to delve deeper within, to uncover resilience, set healthy boundaries, and develop compassion that embraces both self and others without attachment. Story 4. The Anchors in Stormy Times. In a quiet valley nestled between mountains, Master Haruto often taught his students about the power of grounding one's spirit. One evening, as the clouds gathered and a gentle rain began to fall, his disciple Emi approached him with a heavy heart. Her family was going through hardship, and she felt overwhelmed by the weight of sorrow. Sensing her pain, Master Haruto guided her to sit beneath a towering cedar tree, its roots deeply embedded in the earth, unwavering even as the rain intensified. "Emi," he said softly, "just as this tree stands firmly through storms, we too are supported by those who stand by us in life's most challenging times. These individuals are like the roots that hold us steady when everything else feels uncertain." Master Haruto shared a story from his own life to illustrate this. "Years ago," he began, "I went through a period of deep grief after the passing of someone very dear to me. It was as though a piece of my heart had been lost, and I found myself adrift, struggling to find meaning and peace. During that time, my close friend Shin became my anchor. He visited me every day, sometimes sitting with me in silence, other times sharing words of encouragement. Shin's presence was unwavering. He understood that healing takes time and never pressured me to move on before I was ready. He simply stayed by my side, like the roots of this tree, offering strength and stability without expectation." Emi listened, touched by the depth of Master Haruto's story. She began to realize the immense value of those who stand by us during life's storms, not to solve our problems, but to be a steady presence when we need it most. In Buddhism, gratitude is seen as a foundation for a peaceful heart and a joyful spirit. Master Haruto reminded Emi, "When someone becomes an anchor for us, their support is a gift of great value, and it calls for gratitude. Such relationships are rare and precious, for they are based on selflessness and compassion. But gratitude," he continued, "is not just a feeling, it is an action. Just as the tree's roots anchor it firmly, the tree itself provides nourishment to the soil and offers shade to those who seek shelter. True gratitude is not only expressed in words, but in reciprocating that support when the time comes." Master Haruto encouraged Emi to reflect on the people who had been her anchors during challenging times, and to honor these relationships by giving back in whatever way she could. Whether by lending a listening ear, offering comfort, or simply being present, showing appreciation for these anchors creates a bond that grows stronger and more meaningful with time. Master Haruto continued, "In Buddhism, we learn that all beings are interconnected, like threads in a vast web of life. The kindness and support we receive should not stop with us, but rather flow through us to others. By reciprocating the support we've received, we keep this web strong and resilient." Emi nodded, realizing that while life would always have its storms, she was never truly alone. She thought of the friends and family members who had offered her comfort and support, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She knew now that honoring these relationships meant giving back, not out of obligation, but from a place of love and appreciation. Master Haruto concluded, "When we become anchors for each other, we create a foundation that no storm can shake. By grounding ourselves in gratitude and reciprocity, we nurture a spirit of kindness that touches everyone around us." In that quiet moment beneath the cedar tree, Emmy found herself overwhelmed with appreciation for the people in her life who had been her roots during turbulent times. She silently promised herself to express her gratitude to each of them, to become a source of strength and stability in return. In our own lives, we can reflect on those who have been our anchors and ask ourselves how we can honor these connections. Whether by a gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, or simply by being present, we can give back to the people who help us stand strong. Through these acts of gratitude and reciprocity, we embody the principles of compassion and interconnectedness at the heart of Buddhist teachings. In this way, our relationships become a source of mutual strength, creating a support system that holds us steady no matter how fierce the storm may be. Story 5. The importance of respecting others' karmic journeys. In a peaceful monastery nestled atop a serene mountain, Master Ryokan observed his young disciple, Akio, with a thoughtful gaze. Akio was a compassionate monk, always eager to help others, often going out of his way to offer assistance. One day, he encountered a fellow monk named Kenta, who was struggling to carry a heavy sack of rice up a steep hill. Without waiting for Kenta to ask, Akio rushed over to lift the load, insisting on helping. Kenta thanked him but mentioned gently, "Akio, I appreciate your help, but Master Ryokan has given me this task as part of my practice. It is something I must complete on my own." But Akio, in his eagerness to relieve his friend's struggle, ignored these words, determined to make Kenta's burden lighter. With Akio's help, the sack was soon at the top of the hill. Relieved, Akio felt proud of his helpfulness, certain he had done something good. The next day, Master Ryokan called Akio aside. He had observed Akio's actions and saw the unintended impact it had on Kenta's progress. "Akio," he began, "your intentions were kind, yet your intervention may have deprived Kenta of the strength he was meant to cultivate through his task. In your haste to help, you disrupted his karmic journey, interfering with the lesson he was meant to learn." Master Ryokan continued, "Kenta's task was assigned to help him develop patience, resilience, and inner strength. By taking that away from him, even with good intentions, you may have delayed his growth, as his spirit was not given the opportunity to build the endurance he needed." Akio listened, a sense of realization dawning on him. He had wanted to help, yet in doing so, he had unwittingly interfered with his friend's progress. It was a humbling lesson in the power of restraint and understanding the boundaries of well-intentioned assistance. In Buddhism, the concept of karma teaches that each individual's journey is unique, shaped by their past actions, intentions, and the lessons they need to learn. Master Ryokan explained, "Every person has their own path, woven from their actions, choices, and the lessons their soul needs to absorb. To interfere with another's journey, even with the purest heart, can sometimes disrupt their growth." He added, "In the same way that a seed cannot grow if it is constantly shielded from rain and wind, a person must face challenges to fully develop their inner strength. The difficulties each of us encounters are part of our karmic path, guiding us to discover resilience, wisdom, and compassion." Through this teaching, Akio came to understand that there is wisdom in stepping back, in allowing others to face their struggles and grow through them. Compassion does not always mean removing burdens. Often, it means standing by and offering silent support, trusting that others have the inner resources to meet their own challenges. Master Ryokan then shared a story of the Buddha himself. The Buddha once encountered a man struggling deeply with his anger and desires. Many of his followers suggested intervening, offering teachings to help the man overcome his inner turmoil. But the Buddha understood that the man was not yet ready. He needed to go through his own experiences and reach his own realizations before he would truly benefit from the teachings. Over time, Master Ryokan continued, the man returned to the Buddha, humbled and open, having come to understand his anger through his own journey. Only then was he ready to receive the Buddha's guidance. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give others is the space to walk their own path. In this story, Akio found a deep and humbling insight. While it is natural to want to help, true compassion respects the growth and autonomy of others. It is a balance between caring for others and honoring their journey. Akio, Master Ryokan concluded, let your heart be a source of quiet strength. Offer support when asked, but also learn to trust that others have their own inner resources and karmic lessons. We cannot remove all challenges, nor should we try. Instead, let us practice compassion with wisdom, allowing each person to unfold in their own time. In that quiet moment, Akio felt a profound sense of peace. He realized that compassion is not always active intervention. Sometimes, it is a gentle presence, a silent encouragement, and an honoring of each person's unique path. In our own lives, we too can practice this mindful support. When we respect others' karmic journeys, we embody the true spirit of compassion, recognizing that each soul is on its own path toward wisdom and enlightenment. Through this understanding, we nurture not only our own growth, but contribute to a world where each being can flourish in their own way, at their own pace. Story 6. The Weight of Forgiveness. One day, while the Buddha was traveling with his disciples, they came upon a village known for its hostility toward spiritual teachers. As they walked through the village, a man approached them, his face twisted with anger. Without warning, he began hurling insults at the Buddha, ridiculing him and accusing him of spreading nonsense. The disciples were taken aback, angered by the man's behavior, but the Buddha remained calm, his face serene. After the man exhausted his rage, the Buddha simply looked at him and said, "Thank you, my friend, for giving me the opportunity to practice patience and compassion." These words startled the man, who had expected retaliation or at least anger in return. Instead, he was met with peace and kindness. Confused and disarmed, the man fell silent, his anger dissipating in the face of the Buddha's compassion. Later, when they had left the village, a disciple asked, "Master, why did you thank that man for insulting you? Shouldn't we avoid people like him who spread negativity?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "When someone offers us a gift and we do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? Similarly, when others offer us anger, we are free to refuse it. By doing so, we protect our peace. Forgiveness allows us to release the burdens others try to place upon us, freeing ourselves from emotional chains. In Buddhism, forgiveness is not simply a way to reconcile with others, it is a path to inner freedom." The Buddha's response to the angry man shows that true forgiveness goes beyond words or actions directed toward others. It is an inner process of letting go of resentment, anger, and emotional burdens, regardless of whether the other person apologizes or changes. Master Ryokan, reflecting on the Buddha's teachings, once shared with his students, "Forgiveness is like releasing a heavy stone we have been carrying. When we forgive, we are not condoning the harmful actions of others, but rather, we are choosing not to carry the weight of resentment. This lightness brings peace and allows us to move forward without being chained to the past." The concept of forgiveness in Buddhism emphasizes self-compassion. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger and resentment is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. In this way, forgiveness is ultimately an act of kindness to oneself. By forgiving, we release the emotional burden we carry, making space for healing and inner peace. It is natural to feel hurt when wronged, and it can be difficult to forgive, especially when the pain feels deep. But by forgiving, we stop reliving the hurt, giving ourselves the gift of emotional freedom. This freedom doesn't mean that we forget or dismiss what happened, but that we are no longer bound by the suffering it caused. Forgiveness, like meditation, is a practice. It requires mindfulness, self-reflection, and patience. Master Ryokan taught his disciples a simple practice to cultivate forgiveness. When you feel anger or resentment, breathe deeply and visualize that feeling as a dark cloud. As you exhale, imagine releasing that cloud, letting it dissolve into the vast sky. With each breath, you are letting go of the weight that anger brings. Through this practice, forgiveness becomes a gradual process of self-liberation. Each breath, each moment of letting go, brings a sense of lightness. We are no longer confined by the actions of others, but instead live in a state of freedom, guided by compassion and wisdom. For those struggling with self-forgiveness, the process can be particularly challenging. Often, our harshest judgments are reserved for ourselves, and we carry guilt and regret for things we wish we had done differently. In these moments, the Buddha's teachings remind us to show ourselves the same compassion we would offer a friend. Forgiving ourselves is an essential step on the path to inner peace, allowing us to move forward with kindness and understanding. As the Buddha once said, forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Forgiveness does not excuse or forget the harm, but it transforms the pain into compassion and peace. When we forgive, we become like the violet, letting go of bitterness and resentment, and choosing instead to share peace and kindness. Through this story, we see that forgiveness is not an external concession or acceptance of wrong, but a profound inner liberation. It allows us to release the emotional chains that bind us to the past, freeing our hearts and minds for the present moment. In practicing forgiveness, we align ourselves with the teachings of compassion and non-attachment, creating space within ourselves for peace and joy. For those who struggle with forgiveness, remember that it is not a single act, but a journey, a continual choice to let go of anger and embrace understanding. With each step, we lighten our burdens, finding within us the capacity for compassion, resilience, and true inner freedom. In a secluded corner of the monastery garden, monk Kobo and his student Alina sat quietly, watching the koi fish swim gracefully in a pond. Alina had come to him with a heavy heart, feeling lonely and isolated because she had few friends. She had long believed that a full social life, filled with friends and constant interaction, was the path to happiness. Yet, lately, she felt a yearning for something deeper, something beyond superficial connections. Sensing her inner struggle, monk Kobo looked at her kindly and said, "Alina, in Buddhism, we often speak of solitude not as a burden but as a gift. True solitude is not about loneliness, but about making space within ourselves to discover who we really are. In solitude, we connect with our own spirit, hear our inner voice, and cultivate wisdom." Alina looked at him, surprised. She had always seen solitude as something to be avoided, but now she felt curious about this different perspective. Monk Kobo began to share a story of his own journey. "When I was young, I too felt the pressure to surround myself with others, to constantly be with friends and share my experiences. I believed that being alone meant that something was missing from my life. But then, during a period of retreat in the mountains, I spent many weeks in solitude, and something changed within me." He continued, "At first, the silence was overwhelming, and I felt an urge to fill the emptiness with thoughts of others. But over time, I began to feel a deeper peace. In the quiet, I could hear my own thoughts and see my own heart clearly. I discovered passions and strengths I hadn't known were there. Solitude, rather than taking something away, had given me the gift of self-awareness." As Alina listened, she could feel a shift within herself, a realization that perhaps solitude wasn't an absence but a presence, a space to discover her true self. Monk Kobo went on to explain, "In Buddhist teachings, we speak of the value of mindful relationships. Having few friends doesn't mean lacking connection. Rather, it allows us to nurture relationships that are genuine, deep, and meaningful. When we aren't constantly surrounded by others, we can invest more attention in the relationships that truly matter, and these connections become like strong roots in our lives. In solitude, we also find the freedom to be selective," he added. "We can choose relationships that nourish our spirit and align with our values. When we prioritize quality over quantity in our friendships, we invite people into our lives who support our growth and resonate with our journey. This kind of friendship, grounded in authenticity, is a true blessing." Alina thought of the few friends she had, those who had always supported her without expectation, who understood her heart without needing explanations. She realized that these relationships were rare and precious, and that her solitude had allowed her to appreciate their depth and significance. Monk Kobo explained further, "Solitude is often misunderstood. Many see it as a sign of isolation or sadness, but in Buddhism, solitude is a path to clarity and self-discovery. When we are alone, we have the opportunity to see ourselves without distraction, to ask ourselves what truly matters, and to listen to the wisdom within." He shared a meditation practice with Alina. "When you feel lonely, sit quietly and breathe deeply. Embrace the silence as a friend, allowing it to reveal your inner world. In solitude, you will find the space to explore your passions, to cultivate gratitude, and to nurture your inner peace." In Buddhism, solitude is seen as a fertile ground for cultivating mindfulness and self-awareness. By turning inward, we begin to recognize our own value and purpose, independent of external validation. We come to understand that peace and contentment are found within, not in the approval or presence of others. Alina looked out over the tranquil pond, feeling a new sense of appreciation for solitude. She realized that being alone didn't mean being lonely. It meant having the space to grow, to explore, and to connect with herself. She felt grateful for her few friends who added meaning to her life without overwhelming it, and she saw her solitude as a sacred space for self-discovery. Monk Kobo concluded, "Embracing solitude requires courage. It means facing yourself fully and finding peace within. But in that peace, you will find the strength to walk your own path with clarity and purpose. Remember, solitude is a gift, a way to touch the quiet depths of your soul." Through this lesson, Alina discovered that solitude was not something to avoid but to embrace. She learned that true strength comes from understanding herself, and that, in the quiet of solitude, she could connect with her own heart and spirit. In our own lives, solitude can be a powerful tool for self-actualization. By taking time to be alone, we allow ourselves to uncover our inner strengths, values, and passions. Solitude becomes a way to find true inner peace and purpose, helping us build a foundation of clarity that guides us through life's challenges. In embracing solitude, we come to understand that we are enough on our own, and that true peace arises from within. In this way, solitude, far from being a sign of loneliness, becomes a sacred path to self-discovery and fulfillment.